I was graciously given the opportunity to play the newest chapter in ESO High Isle early for about a week thanks to ZeniMax. And in this video, I'm going to explain and summarize my experience in the chapter. I also got to play a ton of the new ESO card game, Tales of Tribute, and let me tell you, I haven't been this excited in a while for ESO. So I'm going to go through some of the brief overviews of what the zone is like, the aesthetic, the new volcanic public events, but mainly we're going to talk about the new card game, Tales of Tribute, because that is the main feature of the chapter, and that is the main concern with a lot of players with this chapter. So let's go and jump in. Thank you again to my patrons and my YouTube members. More on that at the end of the video. But first off, this year's chapter sets place in a place called the Sisters Archipelago. This is north of Somerset and about southwest of Alakir. This is sort of the best of High Rock expansion and is themed around the Bretons. Bretons are a feudal society, and High Isle is mainly home to the nobility of that. I want to mention that I won't be saying any story spoilers, as I only did really about one story quest because I like to do them when they release, but I will say that the story characters so far seem very interesting and very intriguing to me. Something that the devs said was this is not a place that Elder Scrolls has really explored yet in other games. So for all the lore seekers out there, this should be jam-packed full of great lore for you. But as soon as you step into the zone, it is breathtaking. I immediately felt the feudal and nobility style of society in the zone. It looked like sort of medieval. There were castles, and I'm just always impressed by the zone team and how they create such a great experience. Right now, this may be my favorite zone ever. And you guys know how much I love Somerset and Clockwork City, but this zone is awesome. Like, I feel like I should just sign up for a jousting tournament or something in the zone. But like I said, there's castles, there's like a jungle-ish area, tropical kind of in a way, and it just feels like you're in The Witcher 3 in some ways. But that's the vibe that I got when I got into the world. Now moving on to the volcanic vents, these are like dolmens, dragons, the coral geysers in Somerset, but these are intense. They're essentially just, again, like a lava geyser, but it's cool. I really liked it, and it was fun to do it. I found another character or another person in there, and I was able to do them with them, but it was a really cool event, and I'm excited to do this with other players. Now moving on to like the style and the fashion, there's a lot of very medieval looking armor, which I really love. Like the ancestral Breton style looks freaking awesome. And there's also pirate like themed or like coral themed armor, which I really like as well. But the armor was definitely very unique and different. So you can look like coral-esque, and you can look very like feudal or medieval, and I just thought that was really interesting. Now let's move on to the mythic items. There are some interesting mythic items in this build. There's like a mythic item in this zone that counts the amount of books that you have in the Shalador lore library, and you get certain effects based off of how many books you have. That's really cool to me. There's also some ridiculous crafted sets. There's one that gives like boost in crit damage and crit healing as its 5-piece, which I thought was really cool. There's even a mythic item that replaces your dodge roll with a damage shield. So you no longer evade attacks with it. You actually get a damage shield, which is really interesting to me. There's also another mythic item that gives tons of resources, but it only lets you use 1 bar, which I think is really interesting as well. And there's just some other really cool items from the trials and the item sets throughout the zone that I am just really intrigued by when it comes to this expansion. But now let's talk about the card game. I want to caveat this with we're playing on a 1-month-old build, so the way that it looks is not accurate. The way that it plays in some ways is going to be tweaked, obviously, like some of the I'm sure some of the mechanics and things like that will be tweaked, but I just want to caveat and give you my impressions of it from what I've played so far. And this is the most excited I've been to play ESO in over a year. The main thing that I want to address first, though, is this card game is not pay to win. This was addressed in our Q&A, and all the cards and upgrades will be earned in-game, which is a huge relief for a lot of people. Some other things to note is that this has both a PvE and a PvP ranking system, with a competitive rank on PvP, which I'm very excited about. Those PvP ranks are broken down into divisions, and there are nice rewards according to the devs that you can earn if you reach certain ranks, and you will lose rank if you lose matches. There's also a storyline for PvE, as well, which I think is really neat. And they said that some of the rewards that you can earn are gold, consumables, base crafting materials, crafting boosters, which are like upgrade mats, furnishing crafting materials, cosmetics, provisioning and furnishing recipes, motifs, transmute crystals, emotes, and furnishings. And you can get some juicy rewards from PvP they were talking about as well. Now, if I can summarize the card game into a brief synopsis, because I want to give you a little bit about how it works. This is a two-person deck building and resource building game. That means that you both start out with a set number of cards in your deck, and as the game progresses, you add to it by using cards to gain resources and effects. Now, there are 8 unique patron decks to collect. These patron decks are themed to the style of play of that deck, sort of like commanders in Magic the Gathering. If you've ever played Magic the Gathering, these patrons have their own icon or suit, and they have different synergies within their deck that you can usually play the cards of that same deck in synergy, and you'll get added effects or combos. Now, what type of cards are there? Well, there are 4 types. There's starter cards, action cards, agent cards, and contracts. Starter cards are cards that namely are ones that you start out with in your deck that have no gold cost, and they help you get going in the game. They give you resources, they give you other abilities. Action cards are actions that give you an effect and that you can buy with a gold cost. Agent cards are essentially minions, creatures, or planeswalkers like in Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone. These have health and they stay on the field until someone defeats them. Each turn you can activate their ability. And contract cards are instant use cards from the tavern. Now, what is the tavern? The tavern is a shared deck in the middle of the table between 2 people. At the beginning of the game, the player going first will pick a patron deck to add to the tavern and play with. Then the second player adds 2 more patron decks, and then the first player adds the last one, the 4th one. This is how they balance out the game if one player has more cards than the other. It essentially is like a draft, but the tavern is then dealt out in the middle with 5 cards showing. You can buy the cards in the tavern for gold. Contracts are cards that give you the ability on the card immediately when bought. Other cards just go to your cooldown pile and get shuffled into your deck. That's the benefit of buying a contract card. You can get the effect immediately. Now, moving on. You start out with 10 cards in your deck and you draw 5 each turn. You buy cards from the tavern and you accumulate power. Power can be turned into prestige. Prestige is one of the win conditions, and there are 2 win conditions. The first one being the first person to reach 40 prestige or getting all 4 patrons to favor you are the 2 win conditions. How do you get the patrons to favor you? Well, once a turn, you can activate a patron ability. These range from gaining power, messing with your opponent's cards, or other effects. That will then turn the patron's dial to your favor with an arrow. Now, if the other player activates that patron effect on their turn, it turns it back to neutral. It takes strategy and timing to get all of them to favor you, but that's part of the game. That's part of the deck building. That's part of the strategy. You have to figure out the balance between buying cards in the tavern, gaining power, attacking your opponent, or gaining favor from the patrons. That's the gist of the game, though. Now, again, this is a month-old build, and I can't go into the different details of how the whole game works because that would take way too long in this video. But there are a lot more details to go over. So if you want to make sure you don't miss those, make sure to ring that bell because I will be making a video on that, and I'll have tons of guides on this because I'm so excited for this when it comes out on the PTS and on the live server. So in general, this expansion has gotten me super excited to play ESO again. And if you want to watch my full opinion on the card game, check out this video up here in the cards. But again, thank you to my patrons, my YouTube members. If you want to watch me play live on Twitch, twitch.tv/brahwegotthis, Tuesday through Friday. Our website, brahwegotthis.com, where we'll have an article on Tales of Tributes, and our Discord. All the links are down below. Remember to have faith, be great, and I'll see you on ESO.